Hello, my gorgeous friends, and I'm back in LA and ready to record some new videos. Continue to contemplate on exactly the same thing that we were contemplating on before, plus some. I feel like if we go deeper into this topic, we will expand it exponentially, maybe quantum leaping with all of this information and letting it take us to a whole new level of understanding of our spiritual path, our reality, our everyday 3D things, maybe understanding something we haven't understood before in the way life works. So let's continue on this amazing journey, and today we will, as I said, explore this same topic about the thinning of the walls and the erasing of the walls, how to get there safely. How does the veil drop and we see this different reality? What is this different reality? We're going to talk about 3D, 4D, 5D. What do they all mean? Are they in the physical? Are they in the mental? How to see them? How to understand where you are at this on this specific day? And then is this a new concept? Let's say, was it always here? Are we just discovering this? And or was it like something that was something? Is it really that the earth is splitting right now, right? The emerging of the worlds, the splitting of the worlds, and then the merging of different realities together into a 4D. Like, what is it all about? I also want to talk about reading your immediate 360. This is one of my strengths, and I would love to share it with you to show you how I read my immediate environment, meaning like my immediate 360 environment, physical reality, and to understand the inner workings of myself, or to see where I am at on my spiritual journey. I also can read other people's 360 environment and kind of have a general idea of what they're going through internally, even though they might not say so internally. So I normally don't do it like intentionally. It just really reveals itself to me and comes, and in a very respectful way. So I've noticed that this gift of mine uncovers to me mostly through through children. I'm very close to like my kids and all of their friends, and my whole life I've been kind of with this center figure around which all the children usually gather, and I absolutely love and adore that, and I respect all the children. But a lot of times somebody's environment, a child's environment, might reveal things to me that they're going through internally. I don't necessarily know what to do with it, other than just make sure to create a safe environment for that child to self-express, even if it's for like a day of playing with my kids, something simple like that. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about the grandiosity or the simplicity of all of this. Because a lot of times we imagine this big shift between 3D Earth and 5D Earth. Let's say this is the popular explanation to the split, to the different realities, right? To the dimensionality of our life. Yet, when I used to think that it was going to be something huge, and it would never come, right? You end up searching and searching and searching, and you're never satisfied, because you might, by this search, you might create an incredible circumstance around you that will be very magical. I apologize. And it will feel as if you're taking a leap into a new dimension, yet it will happen, like a rupture. It might happen once, and then you're just chasing that high. it might happen twice to you, something absolutely incredible, magical, but then you're still stuck in this everyday life, right? And you end up driving yourself crazy, looking for meaning in the things that don't make meaning, right? So you draw things into your reality and then derive it back from it, right? So you're kind of feeding yourself by imbuing things with certain meanings. And that is not to say that that's what I do or all of us do, but yet there is a natural flow of when it happens, and then there's also this very intentional, meaning you're intensifying, you're building this tension to feed yourself something magical, right? So you're forcing things to fall into place, you're forcing meanings to fall into place, and I feel like it takes away all the magic of the unknown and of the actual magic happening, of things that you have yet to understand, right? Because you're imbuing things with things that you've heard or things that's supposed to mean. Like, let's say if you see a giraffe, right, and you're like, well, what does it mean to me, right? And you allow something to unfold within and give you a meaning, and then you'll see a pattern within time of noticing a giraffe in a particular state of your development, right? That will signify, let's say, maybe growth, or maybe ability to see far, or maybe it will signify uniqueness, right? Your uniqueness for you in a certain situation. But if you let's say like Google right away the meaning for the giraffe, your personal meaning might not unfold within it, right? So if you're going to feed like a meaning into the reality with around you with other people's meanings, the journey changes. So the journey will still wait for you to actually imbue your own meaning and translate things in your own way, because ultimately it is your reality, not anybody else's. So if it means something like that to someone else, what it only means is that they have discovered what it means to them, right? And you have yet to discover what it means directly for you. That said, right, then this whole thing that I'm saying can pertain only to me, right, and not to anyone else. That can be true, but what is also true is that you are me and I am you. So what pertains to me can also be right for you. So there we go. There is that little catch-22 that I feel like we face most of the time, regardless of what we do on this journey, right? There's always going to be like, there's this way and then there's that way. You can look at it this way, you can look at it that way. And that's the beauty, right? It gives you a whole spectrum of angles to work through. How to read your physical reality. I'll give you some examples based on my own self. So one of the things, by the way, let's establish a few things from the previous video. The previous video, it was about, the first video was about thinning down of the walls and how it can be achieved naturally, or it can be induced by the drugs, right? Then the second video was me kind of telling you about my like gliding through this crazy stage of my awakening journey where I became the targeted individual. And the reason I feel comfortable talking about that right now is because there are other women who just came out with exactly the same story, and these like very similar story. They understand exactly like what happened. I always knew, like I knew several women that it happened to, and I was always conflicted as to whether to reveal it or not to reveal it publicly for many different reasons. One of them being that I've overcome it. So, being targeted. And I know that I've overcome it by quitting drugs, smoking, cigarettes, all of the influences that could cloud my judgment and could also cloud my, basically connect me to that path, connect me to the reality, to the layers of reality who are controlled and operated by these types of energies, by the energies of addiction, which also represent other energies, right? A lot of times addictions solidify in our body and then control us because we also have certain feelings, let's say, that we cannot overcome, like judgment, jealousy, not understanding somebody on why they are the way they are. There's a plethora of instances where a negative feeling can solidify as a thing that it's physically can solidify as in the physical as an addiction that is physically eating away at you, that is killing you, right? So let's say jealousy or hate can solidify, can manifest as a cigarette smoking, right? And or like anxiety or like constant fear can solidify as a cigarette smoking. So that constant fear is eating away at you, but in the physical, it's actually the cigarette smoking that is killing you slowly from the inside. So with I was very I was always kind of thinking, okay, well, yeah, that is the truth. So what? Okay, so I was targeted, but I knew that I was targeted because I was also, this was my dark night of the soul. And in the digital world, this is how the dark night of the soul looks. We're drawing to ourselves these images in our mind's eye, what something should look like, because that's how we grew up. We grew up reading novels. We grew up seeing these long movies about how things should be. So when we're thinking about a spiritual path, right away we imagine like some sort of a building that is like a castle, right? Or like not a castle, but a for some reason I right away see Spain. I've been to Spain and I've studied architecture in Spain there when I was 14, and I see these castles, these places where we traveled to, and monks like living somewhere far away from the 3D reality and in the mountains and surrounded by olive tree plantations and the little Cornish hen in the jars everywhere, but that's how I envision like a spiritual path. Certain things are attached to certain understandings, but that's the whole idea, is to then attach all of that to us, right? Have us have this expectation and then completely flip the switch and throw us into the unknown, into the digital world that looks where everything looks completely different. So a spiritual path nowadays doesn't look anything like it looked for the generation that came before us. That generation, and it's designed to be this way, so that we have to now find our own meaning within what's going on, right? And not look back into the past or not look far into the future. Be exactly at the moment right now to decode what is happening. And our digital world is a big part of that. It's creating these spiritual quests for us. And in many ways, when you acknowledge that you are on a spiritual path and you decide to move forward, you decide to move through the dark night of the soul, which nowadays might look like 5D reaching down into 3D for you through the 4D, which I call the digital world, the internet, the YouTube, the social media, right? It's descending to you with the messages, but based on how distorted you are within. That's how distorted the message will be. That's how it will come through. So let's say you are addicted to drinking alcohol, you're addicted to cigarette smoke, and let's say some drugs, right? You're then the message that gets through to you, the only way you can perceive it, right? The only thing that you attract is based on what needs to be detoxed, right? Detoxified. So in order for you to reach the deeper truth, which will come to you from the outside, right? Although you're manifesting it from within and then looking at it in this 3D reality, and you then perceive it as happening to you, it's actually happening through you. So it's using all of the tools, which is this 4D reality, meaning the social media, to relay something to you from deep within or farther out. So if you have all those distortions inside of you, meaning like all of these attachments, you are attached to these very strong egregores, and your judgment is clouded, you're going to first see all of these toxins as you begin to detoxify, hopefully, right? As you begin to quit these things, you will first see these very strange things begin to happen to you. Like you might have all sorts of scams happening to you online. Then there might be some certain groups of people who are now attracted to your, I wouldn't even say light. What they're attracted to is your message, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm ready to pass through the dark night of the soul. So people in the digital, they are just being drawn because you have now created a space in your storyline for them to come in. Because in your storyline, you're going through a detox, and then you're asking the universe to communicate with you. So believe me, and I went through this, the message will not be clear at first. You have to detox. You have to go through this dark night of the soul where all these entities will represent your toxins within. And then as you clear out your liver, your lungs, everything within you, all of that will begin to disappear. And all of a sudden you begin to see clear again, and you begin to see this completely different reality that is not affected by any of these people who make you feel like you are targeted, like you're the targeted individual, all right? Which it does happen to a lot to clairvoyants or the readers, right? I know several girls who are the readers, who can read their reality, who can read their environment, who can read cards, and this has happened to them too. Now, I know about one of them. She's done several ayahuasca ceremonies, which I told her, don't do it. You know, we clairvoyants, we cannot touch any drug or anything because we're so open. It's like saying, hey, yes, you can come in to whatever energy is attached to that drug. And so many energies are looking to come from that reality and manifest into the 3D and continue then on into different realms. They're using our bodies like an elevator. So if you are open to begin with, and then you go ahead and you do ayahuasca ceremonies or any ceremonies where you're traveling into different worlds, I don't care how strong you are. Everybody gets an attachment and brings certain energies with them into this realm. I have yet to see a person who hasn't become an elevator for these energies to come into the 3D. And I'm talking about like very people who are protective, and these shamans. Please understand that this is the newest thing. This is the newest way for them to enter this reality, is through these new psychoactive things, because people are dropping prescription medications. We're moving towards more natural world. So these energies and entities are also adjusting, and they're like, okay, well, we're just going to use these things and we're going to sell them to you as natural, right? As these things that will help you see a different reality. Well, they all have a price attached to them. Basically, you're just becoming the vehicle that brings them into this 3D world, and then you are surprised why your life changes and why you manifest all these crazy things. Well, because you've done drugs, basically, right? You've messed with your hormonal balance, and your body is now detoxing. And because you're so sensitive, and because you're clairvoyant, and because you are, an empath, you're almost an instant manifester. So you put toxin into your body, wait and watch to see, within several hours, maybe days, you will see something toxic happening around you. And you know how we always fluctuate between remembering that life is happening through us, and then sometimes thinking that life is happening at us or to us. And then, normally when we put toxins in our body and the veil becomes blurry, we then see these things happening, negative things happening around us. Again, we begin to believe that they're happening to us, like there is some sort of entities that are non-related to us. Yes, they might come in a form of groups of people that are going to physically pursue you, and try to get you involved in some shady things, but they're still happening through you. Those people exist here to be the characters in a big, Tatiana play, to play out what they need to play out when that energy passes through you, when you are going through a detox, because that's how the reality works. Everything that happens within is also happening without. So, and that's another thing how I wanted to describe of all the evil that's happening out there. When you see something evil happening in 3D, it is only here in 3D because internally somebody is carrying it. Somebody is carrying it internally, and then externally we see it as terrible things, right? So can you change it from the external? Can you go and start shooting all the evil people, or doing something, arresting all the evil people? More will come, unless all of the ones that are carrying them within will change. So it's unfortunate, but there is no other way to address. That is the root of the issue. And unfortunately, we don't talk about that, right? At all. We are a society of putting a patch onto a thing and not understanding where it comes from. Where is this pain coming from? Where then, when the problem becomes so big, we then try to fix it from the outside. Meanwhile, it was always within, and it just grew so bad that basically we need to always look at the root of the problem instead of trying to patch out the symptom. Okay, reading your immediate 360. I'll tell you a little bit about my own personal things. So one of my things, you see my door is closed right now because it's late at night, but one of my things, and I've noticed that this actually pertains to a lot of readers, to a lot of people that are open, to a lot of those who can scry and understand how the future will work out, or reading the past, reading people, their auras and stuff like that. that we all keep our doors open. Now, I keep my doors open all the time, and besides the evening like this when I'm by myself at home, actually I close it for the night when the boys are here too, but for the most part, I keep all of my doors open all the time. And I've gotten into a ton of trouble because of that, because people don't understand and they think that I am inviting trouble just by keeping my doors open. But to me, it is laughable to have a small, key or a little lock. If somebody wants to get in, they, believe me, will know how to unlock that lock within 3 seconds. Nothing is going to stop them. So to me, it's kind of like this. If somebody wants to come in and take something from me, they're going to get in and do it anyways, right? I don't have any physical valuables for that matter, for that reason. I don't believe in valuables that can be stolen from me that would make me upset. It's a great way to live. I also keep my doors open because my kids are friends with all of the kids in these buildings, and I have building A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, something like that. That's a ton of 10 buildings here, and they're all 3-story buildings with small tiny apartments, and then we have a community pool and community tennis courts and community basketball court, and all the kids of the buildings are welcome at our place. And it's been like this in this building and the previous building that I lived in. Everybody knows that they can just come in. My door is always open. There's always a ton of ice cream in the fridge, and all the kids, can either escape the heat here in my place, or just come in, grab an ice cream, grab a snack if I have any, and go back out there and enjoy the great outdoors by the pool, or on the tennis courts, or in the playground. They have a playground here too. So, I love the way it works this way, and I actually got into a ton of trouble when they were changing the doors from the regular key to the digital key. Again, that transition is still happening from 3D to 4D to then 5D, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So anytime you see something switching to digital, it kind of entered that. So let's say if this is 3D and this is 5D Earth, then right there in the middle, there is that 4D, and that's a nice transitional dimension, digital dimension, which of course can also be perceived as a threat depending on your level of toxicity. Or it can be the greatest helper for you to take the leap, or for you to transition from the 3D world to the 5D existence and then back. Because, as per my taste, I don't want to stay in 5D. I like leaping between the worlds, going back and forth. And certainly 4D is there to help me to transition. We'll get back to that. Let's talk about the locks. Yes. So as our building decided that they must switch to digital locks, and there is no longer going to be a physical key to enter the door, I was, I'm okay with everything until I found out that now every time because I keep my doors open, right? I never lock it with the key. And so I basically didn't even need this key because the door is just constantly open. For the night, I just close the top one, whatever. Same thing with my car, same thing with everything. It's just the way I want the world to be, so this is the way I leave it. And when I found out that every kid that enters my apartment now will have to press a 9-digit code every time they want to come in, I almost lost my mind. I called the office and I said, guys, I understand you're trying to do best for the building, but I can't have that happen. I can't have, my door is a revolving door. I cannot have every kid try to remember this stupid code. And, you know, that's first of all. Second of all, I said, how can we get in if there's like an emergency, right? Can I have a physical key to override the digital key? They said, no, you can, there, but I'm like, as they're trying to install it, I see that there is a way to enter the physical key. I said, who has the physical key? Some of the people that work in the building, but I personally will not have a key from my own apartment that I'm paying for, and I am not allowed to use a physical key in case of emergency, or I'm not allowed to have that peace of mind, because guess what? Apparently, upon signing of my lease agreement, I signed some sort of a paper that I agreed to everything and will not fight against anything that is for the betterment of the community. How vague is that, right? Well, how is it a betterment of the community if now kids can't freely access my apartment, you know, when they need to? So to me, that was a big deal. I called the office. I told them I disagree. I don't want to install the digital key since you're not giving me a physical key. I know that all things electronical break once in a while, and I live on the second floor. I do not know how to get into my apartment unless I have a physical key. Plus, I want the children to be able to go back and forth without having to plug in the 9-digit thing that you've generated for me that I can't even generate from myself, like 00000, let's say, even though that would be super annoying. So they had this whole procession, I don't know how to call it. All of them came from the office, like this tall guy, Matthew, and all of the people from the key company, from the new digital latch system, were standing here, and the managers are here, and the other managers like screaming at me on the phone. This is your personal preference to keep the doors open. This is your personal preference. We don't need to answer for it. Your doors are going to be locked, and that's it. Like completely overriding everything that I'm saying and that I'm asking for, which I was very polite and kind to begin with. But anyhow, so I have these people like literally like ready to hold me back to install the digital key. Like that's how severe it is, right? Some things, like when a community or a company decides to move through the digital, there is not much you can do to override that, right? I did find a way to keep my door open though, right? Like I honestly felt extremely violated through that whole experience. I felt defeated, violated. I felt like these people are nuts, you know, like what else can I say? I want my door to be open, and they're like, no, we're gonna make sure your door is freaking closed. I'm like, I live in a different reality where things don't happen anymore, because I understand that things don't happen to me, things happen through me. So if I fought all the demons inside, which I did, which did come out on the outside and tried to enter my apartment, but I fought them all, and I've overcome that dark night of the soul, and now I'm not afraid. Nobody's coming for me, okay? Nobody's coming through my door, nobody's coming for me. If somebody wants to walk in, they're free to come in and grab an ice cream. I have a ton of delicious ice cream. Also, there is a bottom drawer here with a ton of snacks. We have healthy stuff, healthy food. In the fridge, you can find some apples. Bam, done. That is my reality. And this is what is sometimes so difficult to explain to others, right? Who are still yet to either go through their dark night of the soul, or they are going through their dark night of the soul, and they're trying to keep themselves and everybody protected, right? Because they see all of these terrible things happening because of their inner battles, inner struggles, or inner physical toxins that are now detoxifying and showing them what's within. They've now entered into this transitional phase where all sorts of terrible things are happening, and they're like, oh well, if it's happening to me, it must be happening to everybody. It's on TV, right? Well, I know it's a risky thing to say that, right? Because we all see like what's happening on TV, and it might create a false, it has been creating a false a veil, so that anybody who sees beyond it is perceived to be as crazy. But I'm guarantee you, as you detoxify yourself from within and allow all these things to unfold, you will then enter a world where they do not exist. And that's a fact, and that's a guarantee. These doors, not locking doors, Santaro, who just went through her crazy 4D Dark Night of the Soul this summer, which I went through it, what she just went through, I went through it in 2019, and she thinks that this is happening to everybody right now, like this is it. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be patient, but this has already happened. This has already happened to me, and I know people that it happened to way before it happened to me. So this is just whenever you're gonna get there. It doesn't mean that the whole world is going through it right now, right? It's so individual. It's just a matter of where you are on your journey at the moment. But anyhow, so she keeps her doors open, and I know that it is a very good indication of somebody who is a reader or somebody who is transparent with others, right? So if I know that you don't lock your doors, I can automatically know that you can travel between the worlds, between your thoughts, between your between different spaces, right? Like your emotional space, your spiritual space, your physical space, your mental space, without hesitation. Meaning you can pop up in this world, pop up in this room, basically enter this crazy library, and you no longer hold, you no longer take time to wait, which keys for this door, go through this whole thing with the keys, open this door, open that door, where you're gonna potentially lose track of thoughts, lose track of keys, the keys to which door, how are they connected, where I'm at right now, and so on and so forth. Just keep them open, and just go back and forth as much as you think, so as much as you need. So that's one of the things that, like, for me, how to read the 3D physical reality based on how people, let's say, live their life, their immediate 360 life. Do they lock their doors? What does that say about them? What can that say about this specific individual? Because a lot of times it might be even different, right? It's not like a general thing. So, if you keep your doors closed, it means your guard is up. Generally, yeah, it will mean that. But it also might mean other things, right? It might mean like you're not as quick or as willing to merge different realities, merge different rooms, break down the walls in between, have openings that will take you in between different spaces, different stages of life. Another thing with the keys, let's continue with the keys. I actually have my keys here for the car and for God knows for what these keys are. I don't know because I don't use them, but they're there. And every time I walk around, I have this little thingy-majing on me, and then the keys are constantly jiggling. And I think jiggling or jingling, I don't know. But I actually am so curious to learn all these little expressions of sounds. Like the dishes are clunking. When you're like washing the dishes, they're clunking. The keys are jiggling. I'm assuming, I don't know. But please let me know in the comments, what do you recommend? Like, should I read some comic books? Where can I find all these little expressions on how things sound? how to verbalize that. So with the keys dangling on my waistline always, people approach me wherever it is that I am. I can be in a store, I can be in school, I can be volunteering somewhere, because I have the keys, I guess. People always turn to me and they think I'm some sort of a janitor, and they always ask me for things, directions to places. When I can be like literally walking around Target, and they'll come to me and they'll ask me like where to find a thing, and I'm like, they're like, oh, you don't work here, sorry. Everybody always thinks that I work there, whatever it is that I am. And I think it has a lot to do with explaining an incredible thing, which is I hold the keys for everyone to see. My keys are out, and I am known to jingle, to sound my keys. So they're jingling here, and then it means, me having like these little videos, like today here, is you could have known that just by looking at how I wear my keys, right? Where they are. And if somebody's keys are hidden, or if somebody's keys are out, and always here. I've met other people who were very, very, very open, and who held a lot of keys for everyone, and were sounding them out with their speech. And it was actually a principal in one of the schools, and he always wore his keys here, and they were always jingling. And anytime that guy spoke, it was like key, oh, key, another key. It was absolutely incredible. His speech was so precise and clear, and mine are kind of like jiggling all around, and he was just like bam, bam. It was beautiful. So that's another way to like read something within the 3D. What else can we read within the 3D? There is so many things. Yes, if somebody loses their keys all the time, you can expect that person to be a little bit lost within their spiritual path, right? And they're still getting their in general, they're getting sometimes, like I rarely lose my keys. I'm always like, I know exactly where they are. Not that I even need them, because I kept my doors open, but like this one time I misplaced them from one thing to another, and it was pretty crazy. And immediately I knew that something internally, I messed up with some message internally. Hi, honey. Дай бусі. Ой, кто там? Well, hi, that was Rosie. Hi, Rosie. She's so cute. So, yeah, immediately I knew that this is a sign that I lost a key, that I misplaced a key, that instead of relaying something to you that was supposed to be very simple and clear, I might have messed up a little bit and put the keys in the wrong place. So that's another way to kind of translate the reality. But let's talk about, I can't believe this is actually what we're going to be talking about right now, and this is standing right next to me, and you will now understand what it is that I mean, because we're going to be talking about free solo and Everest today. And then as I'm trying to read my immediate 360 reality, this is what I see. And I'm like trying to tell you like what's going to happen right now, what's going to come from within is right next to me. And guess what we're talking about next? Free solo with Alex Honnold, and also the videos about climbing Everest. I mean, this is, this is incredible. This is just incredible. My son drew that when he was 9, actually. Isn't that beautiful? So, long story short, before this gets into another 2-hour video, let's get to it. Let's start reading, how do we read 4D? How do we read the digital realm? And again, it can come across, when you're detoxing, it can come across as it's trying to harm you, like it's coming at you, like there are people places, things that are trying to get your information, or all these scams and spams and stuff like that. So then when you go, if you deliberately decide to clean out your environment within, then your external environment will immediately clear up. Therefore, that's why I, so much recommend for anyone who attempts a spiritual journey, to really, really think about what they want to bring with them onto this journey, because it can get really scary, because you become an instant manifester, right? You send the signal to your environment that I'm gonna be looking in deep, and you have to be ready to see what it is that is eating you alive within the 3D, within your physical reality, and it's not pretty. The entities, the actual physical people that might come to your call, representing your deepest fears or your deepest toxins, are scary. So the sooner you begin to detox, and the more you know that this detoxification period will lead to these unfortunate events or scary situations, and you just accept them, just say, hey, fear, I see you. I know you came from me, and you're now staring at me because I'm detoxing you. So I'm letting you go now, right? Treat it as a miracle that it came out and that it's already on the outside, rather than eating away at you from the inside. Treat it as a good thing. Now, as you enter the 4D, we're all very weary of cookies and things like that streamline what is necessary for us based on our interests. But in general, it is a beautiful technology that is actually speeding up and reflecting to us our internal interests, the sparks that are shooting within, right? So let's say you're unlocking yourself from the inside. You get to a place within your DNA that holds specific information, and it's like there's a spark, and all of a sudden you get this interest, and you're like, oh, I want to know about a mountain. Let's say, like, I've been going to Mount Shasta, right? And I start talking about researching about the mountain, but all I had to do is say the word mountain. I don't even know what else I want to research. And then all of a sudden, this reality based, the 4D, based on my interest, it then gathers all the information that is stored within it, right? All of this Akash that is now digital, available to us in a digital library, and it brings it to me in a form of different videos that are triggered by this one word, mountain. But not only it brings me all the beauty of it bringing me all these things about mountains, that I can then decide in which direction from the mountain I want to go. Do I want to learn about mountain climbing, or do I want to learn about montane meadows, or do I want to learn about the indigenous people of the mountain, right? All of a sudden I have this YouTube feed that is like going to lead me into whichever direction I choose. So it is a beautiful system if you know how to use it properly, and if you know that it's coming through you, right? So how to read 4D. I'll show you how I did it, how I see it, and how absolutely magical it is. So as I was going through my divorce in 2019, I started seeing like sometime in 2020, I would say, I've watched the movie documentary Free Solo with Alex Honnold climbing El Capitan without the ropes, all by himself. And to me, that was a representation of my experience. Now, some of you can laugh, and say, well, how do you even compare? Well, we can go through what he went externally, and we can very much go through the same thing internally. And a lot of us actually do. Only his experience solidified as this beautiful, absolutely, physically demanding, mentally, emotionally demanding experience that was caught on camera for all to see, that is also сопровожден, that is also has all these beautiful views and mountains. I'm not sure how to translate that word that I said in Russian, but when I saw that experience, I was like, oh my God, this 4D reality is now showing me what I've been going through in such a beautiful way that I could not understand it until I saw the free solo, right? Somebody named it for me. Somebody had this experience scaled up exponentially, right? My experience was probably so much smaller in comparison to it. Nevertheless, I went exactly through the same, every emotion that he went through, while climbing El Capitan free solo. And to me, when I decided to go through the divorce with 3 kids without having absolutely, no support besides the family that I had with my former spouse, that was me deciding to do the leap and to go free solo, like absolutely no support, and knowing that it is potentially fatal. There is a very big chance that, if I don't do everything right, that I will survive. And it was extremely scary. It was, but it was the next necessary step for everybody's betterment, right? So, in a way, I felt like if I would stay in the situation that I stayed, that would be a different type of death of me, but it also would lead to that for in many different ways. So as I'm watching that, I'm realizing that here is, this system, the 4D system, that is bringing me these experiences. It's communicating to me through other people's experiences and showing me like, hey, this is what you were going through, and then you're realizing, oh my God, it is a scenario, whether it's scaled up or scaled down, whether it is external or internal, it is a step on everybody's path. And that I know that you had your own free solo, and that if you didn't, you might choose to go ahead and take that leap of faith, or decide to go it alone in some stage of your life. And what we don't know is how many people have attempted the free solo internally and did not succeed. How many people have fallen to their deaths, without anybody ever knowing what they have attempted, how big it is what they have attempted. Because our measurement of things is sometimes so skewed, right? We can appreciate a grandiose experience, yet we can not see the same within a person sitting across the room from us, seeing that even their little, let's say, struggle with a drug can be just as big of or like them quitting a drug can be just as big of an achievement as Alex Honnold's rising up the mountain free solo. Most of the experiences that are real, true experiences are free solo experiences. You can not pass through them with anybody else's presence, and it has to be you and only you. And a lot of things fall away on the way, and a lot of many different versions of you you leave them behind as you climb. And so that was one of the first experiences. Another incredible experience, how the 4D communicated to me information that information I already knew, but all of a sudden I started getting all these different videos about regenerative agriculture with John Kempf, and his then a visitor on his podcasts, Thomas Dykstra, who now has his own podcast, which is absolutely incredible. And this was a girl who is moving through the spiritual awakening, and I'm getting all these crazy downloads all night long, all day long. Plus I'm being a mom to 3 kids, plus I'm detoxing. I now quit painkillers, and then drinking alcohol, and then smoking cigarettes, and then drinking coffee. All of these things are detoxing from my system. So I'm doing it all solo, no help. So that experience, and in the middle of it all, somebody contacted me if I want to start school. And I was so excited. I said, yes, I want to start school. I want to go to school. I want to go to this film school, LA Film School or something like that. Because I was always, I love making little movies and narrations to those movies. So somehow that, made me feel like I can do it. Like it would be a fun thing to do, but I had to quit like a first month into it, just because I realized with the divorce and with the kids and becoming a single mom and their schools and all of the things that all of a sudden I had to do completely on my own, that unfortunately that was not the right time for me to go to school. So I stopped, but that was another thing that emerged from 4D, right? It's like literally I clicked something, I was just going for it with everything, and then this opportunity arrived at my doorstep, and they were so kind. When I told them I have to quit, they didn't charge me for the whatever amount of classes that I took. It was very nice of them. So that happened, and then these regenerative agriculture things came in during COVID. And let me explain to you, I think I might have a video about it already. We're at 58 minutes. Okay, this is going to be another long one. So during COVID, when it hit, I was generally very surprised by the insanity that it brought into our world, and I'll tell you why. I was raised in a way that our immunity develops by our exposure to things. So years before COVID, it's as if I started preparing for it, because something internally told me that will manifest sometime soon, and I stopped sterilizing altogether, trying to strengthen my boy's immune system. I made sure that we were all very, very healthy, that we're all active physically all the time, that we're always out in fresh air. In 2017, I actually received internal message of take your children, go outside, be as much outdoors as possible. Again, I got a lot of criticism that everybody said that, because you love outdoors, you're now putting kids' lives in danger for taking them outdoors with you. I don't know. It was strange, but it did happen. A lot of criticism for driving with my kids to Big Sur and taking them to Carmel and taking them to the forests and everywhere. I was so safe, but yeah, nevertheless, that will always be strange. But I was taking them outside as much as I could. Very limited fast food intake from my kids. Their grandma likes to buy them McDonald's, which is it hits hard. I don't know why would anybody allow that, but that's I guess it's okay once in a while. Sometimes I get them like in and out and stuff, but generally we cook at home. There's lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. I don't wash my berries. I don't wash anything. Meaning like I buy everything at the farmer's market. Maybe we eat less, but I buy better quality food, right? So it kind of evens out between eating shit and just eating a lot of it. So I'd say that budget-wise, it's probably the same thing. It's just you do have to know where to go, what to buy, and stuff like that, and how to cook. If you cook yourself, you get 2 beets, 1 big cabbage, 1 tomato, 1 pepper, 1 garlic, and you got yourself a soup that you can eat for a week called borscht. That is the most delicious, and you spend like $17 on this incredible piece of on this incredible bowl of food. So as COVID hit, I was like, well, I don't feel like sterilizing, closing, protecting. As a matter of fact, I took the kids and we went into the forest as everything was happening crazy here, and we were completely safe. Nobody ever got COVID. At the very end of it, at like the very end of COVID, everybody got COVID, but nobody had any symptoms, and it was like very chill. And actually, not everybody. One of my sons didn't get COVID, and he had all the symptoms, but it was not COVID. He had like all the sniffles and the whatever. But my kids were not getting sick at all. I was not getting sick at all. We were fully exposed. I only wore a mask around people who required me to wear a mask out of respect for them, and as I did not want to trigger any more fears or anybody. I don't need to like run around with a flag. But basically, as this was happening internally, and I was looking at everybody like, you guys are nuts, like everybody's with gloves and things. I'm like, what are you doing? The faster you expose yourself to the thing, the quicker you're gonna boost your immune system. We all have these tonsils that are working. The first thing that enters, they begin to create like these white blood cells and so on and so forth. And this has been working like that for centuries. So the more we separate ourselves right now from it, the more we sterilize, the bigger it'll get. And the psychological effect of all of it is absolutely enormous, and then anything that happens psychologically will then enter into the physical, and then we can call it COVID. Yay, all the fear that manifested through the physical symptoms afterwards. And as I'm doing that, I'm like, well, how do I explain to people when they ask me how I feel, how does this work? Because it's an internal knowing for me. It's an internal knowing that I've been living a healthy life my entire life, and these types of things don't, they're nothing to me. I don't live in that same reality. And John Kemp with his podcast came across my phone, which I wasn't even looking for podcasts about regenerative agriculture. It just came, and I clicked and I started listening, and there were all the answers to everything. A video where Thomas Dijkstra explains the health of plants and how pests and different insects can only affect an unhealthy plant, a plant that is unhealthy to begin with. So there was my moment where Thomas Dijkstra was explaining the relationship between a healthy plant, aka healthy human being, healthy being, and viruses or pests and whatever that can attack a plant, which we think they can attack a healthy plant. They can never attack a healthy plant. insects, just like viruses and bacteria, are nature's garbage collectors. They come to pick up that which is unhealthy to begin with, right? To recycle it back in and give it new life. So all of that was one of like and I'm just giving you like direct examples on how to work with 4D with these videos that are coming in. The video is coming into you and you have not ordered it, don't disregard it. Look at it, see whether you will right away know that even if it's something unfamiliar, you will be like, oh, this explains this particular situation with that I'm going through right now. And this is one of those very positive things that 4D does. It figures out how to speak to you to get your interest. So in a way, we have created that, like let's say Steve Jobs, right? And like people who have witnessed 5D have created this 4D bridge for us to transition, right? Because they're like, well, people cannot go from 3D to 5D, their minds will be blown, right? So we need to create this thing that will be like this safe space, right? So now, because this new thing is the transitional space, is the 4D space, is the digital world, and it's still new to a lot of us, right? Especially those of us who are very deeply rooted in 3D, right? A lot of times we'll look at it as like a game, like this world that is attacking us, or that is violent, or oh, you shouldn't be watching so much TV, or you shouldn't be watching, mind you, so the invention of TV and the internet was the beginning of us discovering this 4D world through which we can pass from one dimension into the other. Or we can get stuck in there. So yes, it is a possibility of spending too much time in 4D. You know, you always have to come out and root yourself back down in the 3D, or you can pass through this 4D dimension and end up in the 5D space. Now, what is 3D, 4D, 5D? Like, oh, here I am in 3D, right? And then I somehow look into my phone and then I end up in this new different world. Hi, Rosie Bud. How does this, do things physically change around me? The answer is no. It is as much of a mental state as it is a physical state, as it is an emotional state. Things might look different. Things might become more meaningful when you enter 3D space. Things will no longer look as simply objects around you. These objects will begin to speak to you energetically. You will know exactly what stands behind them, what type of energy, what type of story is about to unfold, or what it is that you are about to manifest, or which way to go. Everything becomes a sign, right? You are... Rosie Much is playing with my finger imaging. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I really had to clean her litter box because it was smelling. So she just went number 2. And entering 5D space, you'll be exactly where you are, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you will be in a completely different space. Maybe even physically, you will notice things as having different appearance. Maybe a lot of times they appear as much brighter, as much... Rosie, stop, she's biting my feet. As much brighter and vivid, juicy, lush. they have this incredible appearance to it, and then the environment begins to speak to you, and then it is a continuous dialogue. There is no interruption, right? So any which way you turn, there are signs and synchronicities, you know, the ones that you're like pulling like teeth on towards you in the 3D. In the 5D space, they are absolutely constant, and you can build your own reality as you are entering it, and you can also simultaneously let go of the same reality, and it's kind of like the world is moving with you as you are building it, and you're not leaving a trace behind. It's an incredible state of being where you don't need to have anything, you don't need to own anything. You realize that nothing is truly yours to begin with, but you realize that internally, with your every cell, through the entirety of your being, and you realize that just as much as nothing is really truly yours, that everything you want and could ever want is always here and always will be here for you to use to use at the time that you need it. But you have, that's a mental space. You have to break through that mental wall of like fear of not having something, right? Fear of losing, fear of letting go. And that's not going to happen for everyone, unfortunately, which brings me to another way how to read, or another example of how 4D helped me understand my 3D world through the videos, through this digital akasha that is now available to us in a form of social media, YouTube, etc., etc. So right after the Alex Honnold videos and the free solo videos, not right after, sorry, like some time ago, my last trip to Shasta, let's say, I started this other new videos started popping up on my feed, and I was actually refreshing my memories with Alex Honnold, and somehow clicked on the free solo, and then this time, instead of taking me only to the free solo, my feed took me further, took me deeper, and took me into a different sort of journey with the videos about Mount Everest. And those videos explained to me exactly how the 3D physical reality works, but again in this example, which I can now relay to you. So let's talk about the Everest and what's happening on Everest, and these alpinists that are climbing in these crazy conditions to the top of the highest mountain, to the top of the world. So as I see, you know, I'm not going to say that this is Everest, but this is definitely, how beautiful is this, right? A very tall mountain, and let's say that this sort of also represents, you know, one of those pyramids with the eye at the top, right? And so now I'm seeing all these videos about Everest. They're coming to me and explaining to me that in general, in this 3D world, you pay to get to the top. And I'm getting this information through a digital world. The digital world is portraying a story to me. Meanwhile, it's activating understanding within me, right? So that within our 3D world, it is sort of a pay to play, right? You want to get to the top. You are just like people in the Everest expeditions. You have to pay a lot of money to get there. So anywhere from $35,000 to $100,000 for a trip to the top. All right, so you pay these expedition companies that then require a lot of labor from others. a lot of physical labor of others that support people who paid the money to get to the top of the mountain, to get the view, right? These people that are helpers, they're Sherpas. I see that these Sherpas are, in many ways, are like the spiritual community, and were the community of the that second person from the person who is trying to get to the top, the person who actually does all the work necessary for that other person to then get a glimpse of the top. I think in historically, what was that movie? I'm terrible with names, but it was during the war. It was a war general, and his wife was the one who was like making all the decisions, but then he was the one at the top, right? And a lot of times that's how it happens. And we rarely ever talk about the actual Sherpas, who without whom the other person would never be able to get to the top. That route would not even be accessible in any way, because it takes about 8 days from the nearest village to get to the base of the mountain, and then there are 4 different camps that you have to acclimate at for many months before attempting to get to the summit. And so this getting to the summit, called sometimes the summit fever, right? When people who are who paid a lot of money, I say that in our regular 3D world today, it can come across as paying for views on Instagram, or investing into like different companies that then support you getting to the top, right? So that would how it would manifest in a digital world. In the 3D physical world, if you scale it down, you can very much see that happening as a very basic relationship of a person, stay-at-home parent, and a parent who goes out there into the world to make a name for themselves, right? So the stay-at-home parent or a stay-at-home person often does all the dirty job, all the hard work, right, behind the scenes. And the person who is going out there into the world is all smiles and representing, and is the one who is probably going to be talked about when after reaching the top. So summit fever. As you get to the top, it is absolutely extremely dangerous to try and get to the top. And I think in our 3D world, I forgot to say this too, but in our 3D world, of course, success is being defined as getting to the top, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, you can be talking about becoming a celebrity, or you can getting to the top and being the best, absolute best at what you do. It will probably require a lot of preparation, a lot of money. Sometimes you will pay with money, most likely. You will have to pay with money. Sometimes you will even pay with your life, right? Sometimes you will be taken away completely from your family and your loved ones if you want to reach the top. And people still choose to do that, right? Because they're like, well, this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I want to do in my life. Without it, I cannot be fulfilled. And they go ahead and they try to get to the top. Another interesting correlation with summit fever and wanting to get to the top. So acclimating, and it takes months to acclimate. So first they get to this first base camp and they spend like a couple of weeks there when all are acclimated and their bodies begin to produce enough oxygen for them to start rising higher. They begin to rise higher, and they get into camp 2, and they acclimate there. Then they go back down. Then they come back up. Then they go to camp 3. Then they go to camp 4. And then if everybody is acclimated in camp 4, then they can potentially attempt to climb all the way up if the weather permits it, right? So it's a very long process, right? Just like in life, getting to the top of anything, it's a very long process. And this physical mountain, Everest, is just represent. Rosie, stop. Oh, she's just bit me. Ow! Rosenka, I have to take you into your room. Honeychka, I know you're in playful zone mode, but can I take you, please? Can I please take you 1 second? I'm gonna take her into her room because she's being super playful right now. And it's just not going together with me recording the video. I'm sorry, Bubala. Alright, good girl, Rosies. So yeah. Let me close this door. Sorry, you guys. Because she has her ways of getting out, which I already know. Alright, my apologies. But she bites really hard while playful, but still it hurts. So this physical mountain represents so many physical mountains and mental mountains and emotional mountains and mountains that we climb throughout our daily lives, right? And basically, from the videos that I've watched so far, they're getting acclimated. So the getting acclimated, why are you getting acclimated, right, for so long before reaching the top? Because there is, you're entering this death zone. And in this death zone, nobody really survives for a long period of time unless they're very, very well trained, or unless they have supplemental oxygen and they're well acclimated. Because what happens is, as the air thins out there, as you don't have enough oxygen, your body needs oxygen to, perform all of its tasks. So your body begins to produce more cells to carry whatever amount, to more, whatever little amount of oxygen that you're getting, to more, to all of your body. But as that happens, there's several things that can happen that can go wrong. So you can have this, I forgot what it's called, some sort of edema, where your brain swells and you become high, and you start making these crazy decisions. You start losing memory, and you start making these crazy decisions. You become delusional, right? Which is very reminiscent of people who are trying to get to the very, very top, right? A lot of times they get this summit fever and they become truly delusional, as to what the safety is, right? It's what is truly important, like getting to the top or staying alive and staying sane. So you'll see in this mountain, you see a representation of what happens to people that are trying to get to the top at any cost, pretty much, right? They've already paid all these money, so now they're gonna go for it, even if they're not getting enough oxygen, or they're not acclimatizing right. And a lot of times there are all these stories about people dying because they pushed the limits and they didn't listen to let's say the Sherpas, who told them, do not make this call right now to get to the top. You are not feeling well. You are not speaking rationally. You are dazed and confused by this fever of the summit right now. You're making the wrong decision. You need to stop right now, come back down, right? I think that happens a lot in life, in our everyday lives, just like that, right? A lot of times somebody is shooting for the stars, and that the weather is not good to do that at this moment, and you lovingly tell them, but people often don't hear you at that moment because they're already so consumed with getting to the top. And there is actually a very incredible saying that they have within everybody there knows that getting to the summit, getting to the top is optional. Coming back down, descending is mandatory. So anytime anybody who gets to the top needs to know that it's a half journey, that the full journey can only be counted if you are safely then descending to the bottom, back to the camp, if you make it out alive. Most mistakes, most of deaths happen on the way back down, because this is what happens. First of all, if you took too long to reach the top, and when all the Sherpas, all of your helpers said that no, it's time to turn around to safely make it back down, you have to let go. You have to forget about getting to the top this time. Safely turn around, get back down, and save your life. If you don't listen to that, right, and you go all the way to the top, most likely you're not going to have enough oxygen to come back down. So basically, as you're reaching the top, you're already dead, right? So getting to the top is optional. Getting to the bottom, descending, getting down is mandatory. A lot of times people will get to the top. As they're getting down, they're already don't have that drive within them, all right? So the goal of reaching the top is no longer there. That summit fever that got them there, crawling for hours, one step at a time, breathing in, breathing out, one breath, one step. It's no longer there, and it is devastating on the mind and the body. They no longer have a goal, and all of a sudden they begin to feel tired. They begin to feel everything in their body. They begin to feel the cold. There is no more high, and their oxygen is low, and they go through incredible trouble. They fall, they slide, they fall asleep, they go into hypothermia, they get cerebral edema where their brain swells and they begin to hallucinate. So that's when probably one of the main jobs of the Sherpa or the helpers in this life is to, or as I call it, maybe the spiritual community of leading the people into 5D and explaining how to get there, right? And how to, the most important part is how to get back down into the 3D. And I've seen so many fake leaders, fake Sherpas, fake guides. And I think that, those who sell drugs to reach that top, to reach that state, are some of them, including those who sell ayahuasca or any other form of hallucinatory drug. Can you see how it is exactly that journey? I highly recommend you to watch the videos about summiting Everest and what it entails, and how it is exactly the blueprint for the spiritual journey, or for every journey within our life. And how some are trying to get there through drug induction, right? And it is so reminiscent of those who use a lot of supplemental oxygen instead of training and doing it kind of free solo without the oxygen. What happens if you have a lot of it? When it's suddenly gone, it wreaks havoc on the body, as opposed to when you are climbing without oxygen at all, which we might not make it to the top, but there is no such thing as like not having enough oxygen suddenly, experiencing these symptoms like brain swelling or whatever else low oxygen can, like blindness, I believe, memory loss, blindness, that it can promote. But basically, the way down is the most important, the descent. And I feel like between getting into these states of from 3D through 4D and into 5D, you have to know that being in 5D for now, it is a temporary state, and we would probably have to reach, basically it cannot necessarily support human life as we know it, cannot support a physical human body. So you can get there temporarily, experience the top, and then you would have to descend back down into a 3D existence. Unless you want to gradually fall asleep, fall into this state of hypothermia, where people actually feel hot before falling into the forever sleep, and they even get undressed on top of the mountain feeling high or hot. Those are the last stages of hypothermia. But if you are constantly trying to be at the top, right, and if you didn't get there naturally, then and you're doing drugs, let's say, to get there, then chances of you reaching that state of gradually dozing off into the forever sleep are very high, and or falling off the edge and falling to your death are very high. And I feel like all of that can be avoided if we all talk about it and talk about what it is and how to get there and what the safe path is, right? Because it is inevitable that we will all experience it, but how is it that we're going to come back down a bit from it, right? I think just like on the Everest, it is just as important to focus on coming down from the high of the 5D and re-entering 3D and allowing the both worlds to sort of merge within you, so that you can bring some of that 5D, 4D within your everyday existence, blending the two worlds together without slowly merging them, so that your physical body gets acclimatized to that way of living, to that way your emotional body, your mental body gets acclimatized to that way of living. Because if it happens too fast, too hard, and if you don't know how to come down properly, then it will it might drive you crazy, just like people on top of the mountains in the death zone. They go crazy. Some just go, they begin to hallucinate, see visions, and they go and they jump off the cliffs on their own, because they think that it's something else, like they're in the pool somewhere and they do these things. So very important to listen to your Sherpas and listen to the people who have been there and done that. Even on Everest, there were expeditions where, how there's so many people there now, right? Trying to get to the top. Everybody's trying to become a celebrity. Everybody's trying to be the best at what they do. I can't relate. I really like, I think my whole life I've been this sort of Sherpa in this lifetime. because I feel like I've experienced all that in past lifetimes. It doesn't excite me anymore, and I've been okay, it doesn't matter. So as there is like a line of people climbing all the way to the top, right, in Mount Everest, there have been expeditions where the guides, the top guides, the guys that've done it like 1,000,000 times, well, not 1,000,000, but maybe they've summited 4 or 6 times, which is a lot of times. Like you get somewhere and there is a storm, or there is too much wind, or you run out of oxygen, or other people from your group have been climbing so slow that you're not going to make your turnaround time, because there is such a thing where everybody turns around no matter where you are on the mountain, because if you don't turn around by that time, then you're going to be descending in the dark, which I feel like a lot of us are doing. We did not listen to the signs that it's time to turn around, it's time to stop what it is that we're doing to try to get to the top. And now we are all dealing with the consequences of that summit fever. Now we're all dealing with descending in the dark, in the high wind, right? The Sherpas, because they can't just leave those people on the mountain, and the people who paid dearly with either money or their health or whatever else to get a taste of being at the top. So there have been expeditions where very experienced climbers were, let's say, leading the expedition, and then or were on their own. There was one place when they were on their own, 2 people that were extremely experienced, and they turned around right in front of the rest of the people who were following them, and nobody took precedence. And as they turned around, they said, those winds are not good winds, we're not going up. So other groups, instead of listening to these most famous, most experienced climbers and Sherpas, did not ignore that with their summit fever, went to the top, end up dying, all of them, when the signs were so clear, right? But because when you're getting to the top, your vision is so impaired, you're so blurred visioned, you don't understand the reality of the situation from your ego just wanting to reach the top, that you need to have a trusted Sherpa who will shake you out of it or manhandle you down the mountain, knowing that this is what's happening, and you have to have that trusted person who will just bring you back down safely. Because, as I said, getting to the top is optional, you don't have to, but getting back down to the camp is mandatory. Otherwise you're dead, then your trip doesn't count, then your getting to the top doesn't count if you didn't make it back down. So here we are at 1 hour and 37 minutes, and so this is some of the ways that I receive messages from just absolutely everywhere around me. This girl behind me with the big moth on her forehead, she came to me and I knew she was mine. This piece of art, a moth is a big representation of my seeing in the night, of my spiritual understandings and abilities and my spiritual path. And pretty much every object around me, if you know how to read, you know exactly what I'm sort of about. Everything that we do can be read, and it goes way beyond reading somebody's facial expressions. it's literally just reading the immediate 360, and then that person within that immediate 360 will have their own 4D world. So if I was to explain 3D, 4D, 5D, I would say that 5D is very internal, that it is this internal state that of gratitude, compassion, beauty that we can reach while being in this 3D. And when we reach that state internally, it then expands and transforms our immediate 360 here in 3D world. So one world is the other world, yet we now are also in the digital world. So we have to take that into let me explain to you something. Let's say we're living a 3D world, right? Like in the past, what we consider to be the past, and there is Mary Magdalene? No. What is the famous painting? I can't believe this is leaving me right now. But when she sits like halfway like this, and Mother Magdalene and the child, the famous painting, whatever. So everybody knows what I'm talking about. So, you know, that's how we envision her energy forever, because we saw an image of it, and there's an art piece, and it's protected in the museum, right, where she like follows you with her eyes and you can see her. But that energy, it's just a frozen moment in time with that picture, but her energy continued to move through the ages, and she is now in the digital world, and she is alive and well, and she looks like, let's say, Santero right now, right? Now she wears, instead of wearing like a hooded, beautiful cape, she's now wearing a hooded jacket, right? And she's all modern and stuff. And that is exactly the same energy. Let's say some magician from the past, right, that we've read about in the books, is now, I don't know, like, is a Snoop Dogg or whatever, you know. So you have to understand that we're looking too far back into things to try to see further future. Meanwhile, it's all happening through us and right next to us, right here, right now. Only we can't recognize it. We think that somehow mundane is separate from this imaginary 3D, 5D reality that we have, that we presume to be a certain way. It is not the way you're presuming it to be. It is exactly what you see. That's how it is. We've moved into this digital world where things are 3D printed. So everything is adjusting now to be exactly how, to be supported by the being printed by the machines. So now it's up to us to see the meaning within these 3D printed things, just like we used to see meaning in books or wizards or witches back in the day. Now these wizards or witches are maybe rappers and TV stars, right? They're still here, energetically they're still all here. You just have to recognize which archetype of energy belongs to which character in your immediate 360, and then question, why is that archetype coming through? Most likely they're coming through you, but do you want them to have a safe passage through or not? All right, I think this is enough. We're going to finish it here. Hopefully this was a cool contemplation, something for you to play with, see what makes you externally, like what it is that you wear on your sleeve, on your belt, what it is that you put in your pocket, what it is that you carry with you all the time that might make you stand out from everybody else, not because you're wanting to, right? But what does that say about your internal process? What does that say about where you are on this journey? Do you lock your doors? Do you keep them open? Do you live in the reality that you want to live, right? Do you make your own rules? Do you think that life is happening to you or through you? All of these questions, they're so amazing to check in with while constantly expanding externally or internally, right? This is just to figure out where are we on our path, and then check in with our internal compass. Is that where we really wanted to go? Are we where we want to be? Is this our true north? Or maybe we've lost our direction, lost our path, and based on all of this reading external environment, physical environment, and receiving the messages from 4D, maybe get a little bit of direction on where to move next. All right, I love you guys. Have a beautiful night. Bye.